Hello Year 9 and welcome to today's lesson on leaf structure. So I want you to write the date, the title and the LO, and I want you to try the starter test please. So pause the video here and I'll continue in 5 seconds. Okay, number 1, what are the reactants for photosynthesis? So the reactants for photosynthesis, so they're the things that react together, they're on the left side of the arrow in the equation, that is carbon dioxide and water. Okay, number 2, what are the products of photosynthesis? There is supposed to be a question mark on the end of it, I do apologise. The products of photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen and energy. Number 3, what is the name of the pigment that makes leaves green? That is chlorophyll. Number 4, what provides the energy for photosynthesis? That is the sun or sunlight. Number 5, do plants respire? Yes, they do. Okay, so give yourself a mark out of 5 for that, please. Right, what I want you to do now is I want you to draw this in your book, please. I know it looks very scary and complicated, and I did draw it all out live so that I could draw it along with you guys so you could see how I did it, but my laptop couldn't handle the amount that was on there, and it deleted all the animation for it, so I do apologise. So pause the video here. Draw this as accurately as you can, please. It might take you a little while. Okay, and now we're going to go through what this is. Okay, so this is what a leaf looks like from the side. So if you zoomed in really far and you looked at the edge of a leaf, here's the top of the leaf here, and here's the underneath of the leaf. So there's all this stuff going on in that tiny area. So we are going to be able to label all of this by the end of the lesson. So the leaf is adapted for photosynthesis. This is where photosynthesis takes place, and there are lots of things going on to help photosynthesis take place. So these are the things that allow air into the leaf. So spongy mesophyll is this bit here where the arrow is pointing. Okay, it's the bit where there are loads of air gaps. And the spongy mesophyll layer allows air to diffuse through the leaf, because remember, we want carbon dioxide to come into the leaf for photosynthesis, and when it produces oxygen, we want that to go out of the leaf. So it's got lots of gaps so that these gases can diffuse through the leaf. So the spongy mesophyll layer is here. Okay, the stomata are gaps in the underside of the leaf that can open and close by the action of the guard cells. So these two things here, they are guard cells. So they open and close to let air in or out depending on what it needs. Okay, same with here, these are guard cells too. So the gap is the stomata, and then the guard cells open and close the stomata. So stomata is the plural of stoma. So you might see it written as stoma as well. That just means one stomata. Okay, if you wrote stoma or stomata in the exam, it would be correct. So don't worry about that. So get all this important information down, please. Okay, next bit, allows light to reach the cells with chloroplasts. Remember, we need sunlight to reach the chloroplast because that is where photosynthesis takes place, and the sunlight provides the energy for this. Okay, so we have at the top a very thin layer of cells which allows light to get through to all of these cells with chloroplasts in them. So all these dots in these cells, they're chloroplasts. They have lots and lots and lots of chloroplasts to do as much photosynthesis as they can. So the thin layer of cells allows the sunlight to get through to them and they can photosynthesize. Palisade cells are these ones at the top here, these long ones with lots of chloroplasts in. They have lots of chloroplasts and are located near the top, so they get as much light as possible. And then the protection of the leaf and to stop water evaporating. So these are the adaptations that it's got to protect it and to stop water from evaporating. We have a waxy cuticle, So that's this line at the top here. So if you get a leaf off a tree and you feel it, it is waxy, and that means it's tougher for animals to eat and it prevents water loss. So that is protecting the leaf because it makes it tougher for animals to eat. And obviously a plant doesn't want all its leaves to be eaten because then it won't be able to photosynthesize. Okay, the bottom one, the lower surface is also waxy, the stomata only small, and can close to reduce volume of water lost when it is hot or windy. And now we know what all the different parts do and why they're so important for the function of the leaf. We're going to label each layer because you need to know how to label each layer in the leaf. So first of all, at the very top, we have a waxy cuticle. So that's just a line across the very top of the leaf. And then that line across the top of the leaf and the very thin cells together are called the upper epidermis. So the waxy cuticle and these thin cells are the upper epidermis. Here, these long cells straight underneath the epidermis is the palisade mesophyll. And then below that, so the bit with smaller cells and lots of air gaps, that is the spongy mesophyll. So this entire thing here in the middle, that is the mesophyll. So where all the chloroplasts are, the entire thing is called the mesophyll, but there are two different versions. So the very top row of cells in the mesophyll is the palisade mesophyll. And then the rest of them, where there are loads of gaps, that is the spongy mesophyll. Okay, and then at the bottom we have some thin cells again and another cuticle, that is the lower epidermis. And we have another waxy cuticle across the bottom. Okay, these here, either side of the stomata, those are the guard cells, same as these two over here. We have air spaces all in between. And then we have the stoma. So remember, stoma is the plural for stomata, but it doesn't matter which way round you use them. If you put stoma or stomata, you're going to be correct either way. It doesn't matter, so don't worry too much about that. Now, I know this looks like a lot, and I know it's confusing, but really there are only two new confusing words that we've learnt in this lesson, which are mesophyll and epidermis. So epidermis are the top and bottom layers, and mesophyll is all the stuff in between. Okay, so when you really look at it, there's not a lot of new fancy words, and it's actually quite simple once you've gone through it a few times. So what I want you to do, you don't have to redraw all the leaf thing, but you do need to make sure that you know how to label it. Please label it as best as you can. Okay, applying your knowledge. So in an exam, when they draw a picture of the leaf, it's going to be newly drawn for that year. It won't look identical to what we've just drawn. And in past papers, it will look different to what's in new papers. It gets redrawn all the time. So you still need to be able to identify the structures in a range of different diagrams. So they present it a bit differently. So here, I want you to try and identify the structures in a diagram. You don't have to redraw it if you don't want to, but if you do want to, that's absolutely fine. So pause the video here and I'll go on to the answers in 5 seconds. Okay, here are the answers. So I want you to correct your answers, please. Right, and now I want you to choose a coloured task to complete. Please do it without looking back at your diagrams or notes, so just try as hard as you can. And the red one is the easiest, and then it gets harder as you go to yellow, then harder if you go to green, and blue is the hardest. So pause the video here and then I'll go through the answers in 5 seconds. Okay, number red, that's not a number, is it? The red one. So describe what the following are used for by a leaf. So that would be things like a waxy cuticle is to stop water evaporating and to stop animals from being able to eat it as well. Palisade cells, they contain lots of chloroplasts. Stoma, they open and close to let air in and out. So that's just a simple description of what each of these things are. Yellow, explain what the why. Sorry, let me start again. Explain why the following are needed in a leaf. So this isn't just describing what they are; it's why they're important. Okay, so waxy cuticle. It's important that water doesn't escape because plants need as much water as they can. So it helps make it waterproof, and also it stops animals being able to eat it as much, which is important because we don't want animals to eat the leaves because that's where photosynthesis takes place. If a plant can't photosynthesize, it will die. Palisade cells, they need those because it contains a lot of chloroplasts, and chloroplasts is where photosynthesis takes place. If it didn't have all those palisade cells with those chloroplasts, it wouldn't be able to photosynthesize as much, and it wouldn't be able to make enough glucose. Okay, and then the stomata, they open and close to let carbon dioxide in for photosynthesis and to release oxygen into the atmosphere. Green, explain why the following are needed and link to their position. So I won't say why they're needed again because that was yellow. I will just say their position. Okay, so wax cuticle is at the top and the bottom of the leaf. It provides a large layer of protection from evaporation and from animals eating it. Palisade cells are at the very top of the leaf, close enough just under the waxy cuticle, and that is to get as much sunlight as possible. And then the stoma are on the bottom of the leaf, and this helps stop gas exchange on very windy days, so it stops all the oxygen blowing away, that sort of thing, and it stops water escaping in the wind and things like that. Okay, because it doesn't want to lose loads of water, so if they're on the bottom, it kind of helps stop that evaporation. Okay, blue, explain why the following are needed and link to their position within a leaf and each other. So guard cells links to stoma. So guard cells need to be on the bottom of the leaf, either side of the stoma, because that's what actually opens and closes it. Stoma is just the hole. The guard cells open and close it. Palisade cells, we've already said, are near the top. Spongy mesophyll are just below, and they link to the air pockets because that is allowing the oxygen and carbon dioxide to diffuse in and out of the leaf. And we need that because it needs carbon dioxide to photosynthesize, and once it's produced oxygen, it uses some of that for respiration, but then the rest of the oxygen goes back out into the atmosphere. Okay, so give yourself some marks for that out of whatever, for whichever one you did, and that is the end of today's lesson. I hope you all have a wonderful day.